Is that suppose a young person is interested in, maybe the interest starts with simply family history. They want to know about their parish, they want to know about their town, they want to know about their region. If it begins like that, I'm hoping that more people will become interested in preserving and researching history. This is also one of the issues that I'm hoping that this project can speak to, that how do we get our young people especially interested in their own history, preserving it, researching it, and keeping it alive. Because otherwise,
your point is actually absolutely valid, because our own ignorance about our own history is profound, in that sense. And there is no awareness of it, there is no interest in it. Forget about history. Leonard and myself are publishing books. 90% in the state will not know what book has been published in any given year. Our father has authored a book. They don't even know. They are not bothered. Of course, there is another set of people who are interested in their own, family, village, whatever history. That loyalty is very intense. So you find people who have a PhD in chemistry, people who have, in some other mechanical engineers and all, who are going into history. But for this to become viable, I think, the all the masala is there, but there's no chef to bring it together, or it's not coming together as yet.
Well, I mean, I'm hoping that, if we have conversations like this, we can all, in this case, I don't think too many chefs will spoil the broth. I think if we get more people together, then we have much more of a chance to actually do what we all want to do, which is to preserve and to make this history more accessible. Yes, Father.
You are saying nobody is there. The problem is that most of those documents are in Portuguese, and today very few people
are
understand
learning the language. Exactly.
Secondly, if you are going to put somebody there, you cannot keep a person there just sitting down. That somebody will come and open that thing, and who is going to pay this person? How much is the salary today? So these are problems. Oh, the archives are there. If you want anybody, go and search for it.
But the interesting thing about, this new global age we live in, Father. So when I did my research in Lisbon, there were 2 kaishas in the Tohiri Songbook that were just labeled Bengali and Tamil. Now, I looked in the Bengali kaisha just out of interest because I'm Bengali. The first document I pick up is not in Bengali. It's actually in Nagari script, and it seems to be some kind of 18th century Hindavi, and a religious document. So it's full of random South Asian documents, these 2 kaishas. Just to give an example, there is almost nobody in Lisbon capable of reading our languages. But there are people here capable of reading our languages who may not know Portuguese, but the Portuguese can read their language. So if we can, get together, create linkages, then we can do this kind of work.
Question of Portuguese is not there also. I know Portuguese, but I cannot read those books because that was written as S. So what is written? What is that? What is how to read that? Even Latin is the same thing.
But
Father,
the orthography is not that big a deal. I mean, I trained myself to read it. It's not so hard. You can read it if you want to.
Teach somebody first of all old Portuguese, old Latin, and then bring and appoint a person. It's something very. And how long is he going to work? And who is
but it's not so difficult as it was. The mere fact that we are holding this conversation is also because technology makes things possible, which 10 years we could not think of 10 years back.
Absolutely.
So in that sense, the fact that we can come together, you can interact with Leonard without meeting him maybe.
Right.
The net allows you
to. Months before we were doing this project.
Yeah.
So.
All these things are possible today. So how do we scale up? Because kids are learning Portuguese once again in schools. Till your MA and PhD level, you have a Portuguese training course. But like we guys need translation skills to be built up. That's not happening. There are small missing links here and there because of which the whole field is kind of not sustainable.
But this, I mean, my feeling is, and forgive me for speaking on such a large scale. I mean, one of the things that I'm genuinely saddened by in the Indian academic scene is our loss of linguistic skill. There was a time in the 60s and 70s where Indian journals were read around the world. The journals produced in India, and not just the ones in English, like vernacular journals. A lot of what is happening is that that languages have basically become a skill that is no longer valued. That we don't value our own languages, we don't value our own literary traditions. So people who are incapable of, say, going into commerce or going into science are the ones who are studying the languages. And they're doing it not out of love, they're doing it out of lack of choice. But that has to change. That attitude has to change, where we have to again say, you know what, that this tremendous value in these old literary and linguistic traditions that we have in our country. Now, how we deal with that change in attitude, I don't know. But it is something worth, and I think Leonard, you can talk about this. You're in publishing. How do you get people to start to preserve and care about their languages? I mean, even this conversation is happening in English. So there is this issue.
Can I say something? I think at present, the first thing, at least in my view, is getting this rich archives knowable to everyone.
Yes.
Because at least somebody wants to do a research, that person should know where we can find this literature. Whether it's history, whatever it is, the source. And unless and until we are, as Mr. Narora was saying, unless and until we are open our richnesses to others, I don't think we will go anywhere. Because even if we digitalize this whole thing, digitize all this thing, and then it is again coded. It will be like keeping the old books and now you're keeping the new CDs or whatever it is.
But it doesn't have to be that. So, I mean, the next step that we're going to
That's why
try to do is to put it out.
If somebody can get even that which is not digitized. Let us say, for example, Rashol's Emily has something, and somebody is doing a research on that subject, and going to the Rashol's Emily catalog or the list, he or she finds that I can go and visit this library. Surely, following the due process, I think we should be open to.
Absolutely. So the nice thing about the British Library is that they give us the resources to digitize the material to start with. Right? So so we have the equipment now, and the equipment will stay in Goa. So we can, as we digitize, then we can figure out how to put all of this online. How do we make it universally accessible? And Mr. Naranya has ideas for this, and as we talk, we can figure out how to institutionally do this. This part of this project is simply to actually do the first step, to make all of these paper materials into data files that we can then figure out how to upload. But that please don't think that we'll just stop here. The ultimate goal is to put it out.
But we can start with that. We can create a website of Goa.
We should first create a website. I
Goa
think, for
Digital
this project.
Archives or something, and we can put some. Maybe it'll take some convincing.
See, for example, I was in Rome doing my studies. All the university books are online.
Yes.
I sit down here now in Goa and open the library in Rome, and I know what books are there.
Right.
No, Father, but the mentality is different.
No, the first step.
No, one second. Just to give you an illustration, there is a person in this library who was allowing foreign visitors to read only 15 pages at a time. Because if you read the whole book, you won't come back. So that lady had to come for 15 pages each time. In this library.
Copy or read?
Read from the original text.
Read.
Not even copy.
Copy is out of the question. So that is the mentality. The mentality is, if I give you, why will you come back?
No, see, the first step, forget about those who are not willing to share. That God cannot help them.
But what I'm saying is that Father Menezes will give me his, and that will be the end of that. I will have only one.
No, the first step, see, we need some case studies to show how institutions themselves benefit from sharing. Okay, if I know it's a long process to list all, to put all your documents online at this stage. But as Bosco was asking, maybe just if each institution you could tell us this is available there as pointers, and see how that works for the institution, for the researchers, no?
Even that is, I think, a useful first step. So,
True.
for example, just having catalogs that are digitally searchable. I'm saying this from the point of view of a foreign-based scholar. I have limited time and money to come to Goa.
Right.
So if I can sit in, wherever my office is, and to at least look through the catalog and say, okay, when I come to Goa, I have to come and look at this book, and these are where these books are. Even that cuts down on time and money enormously for
That's what we do.
Yeah.
That's what I did when I was abroad. I would
Absolutely.
sit down in my room and then catalog, research whatever books were there in certain library. Then one day I keep only for that library, go there and ask for those books and do
Absolutely.
the research.
I mean, it's so funny when I did my dissertation proposal for my PhD at Chicago. We had to sort of give a plan of what we were going to do, and I had clear plans for what I would do in Lisbon, for what I would do in Italy, for what I would do in England, what I would do in Brazil. And for Goa, I just basically had to say, well, I hope it's there. I hope the material is there. I'm going to go and I'm going to see. And basically, my professors were like, well, God be with you. Hopefully, it's there. But that's the best you can do. And that, if we change that already, I think we've made a big advance. So,
It's an information poverty issue also.
right.
But what you're saying, Father, won't take even much time or money. You can do it on a public thing like Blogspot or something.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
can just put it out.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's something we can do, I think.
I think we
I
can
think
do
we
that.
can
So we
do
can, we can find a.
Maybe the church can take the lead and say, okay, not only Rashal, but even the bishop's house, Maybe I can talk to Father Lolo.
I think individuals individuals can make a difference. Institutions is going to take time.
Yeah.
It's really going to take time.
That's what we found in doing this work. We were very lucky that so many individuals sort of came forward and were helpful.
So yeah, are you open to
Institutional side was a lot slower.
are you open to more such digitization? What kind of documents are you looking? What kind of documents?
So Leonard can.
Yeah, so initially, correct me if I'm wrong, Ananya, the scope was Indian Christian writing. So not writing about Goa, its Christian community, but also by them, right? So, and then we moved to, of course,
Period.
The period is very broadly defined by the British Library. So they say pre-modern, but pre-modern can be anything up until the 1940s even.
Anything that is endangered.
Anything that's endangered, that's from a sort of imperial or colonial period would count.
Because at Pilar we've also digitized the bulletins, just because then these won't be available anyway. Rashal has a full collection of them, but since we were at Pilar, we already started. But somebody, after the message yesterday, we got a request for Kamindad records. I don't know if it fits the criteria.
Absolutely, I think why not? Because my
See, don't wait
plan
for the
is-
language skills. That will come. So
That
somewhere
will
it will come
So
along the way.
My plan is because this is a pilot project. The idea is that the pilot project helps you then to apply for the big grant. The big grant is for £50,000. It's a lot of work doing even the grant application is a lot of work. But I think if we can show them that we've done this much work, that there is all of this other material to be done, then I think we have a very good shot at winning this additional money to continue this project. With that money, one of the things that I would really like to do is to get talent for the languages so that we can actually build usable art catalogs. So somebody who can actually look at a Parmese manuscript and say, this is what it's about, this is the date, this is about the provenance, that kind of thing. So that we cannot do right now. So that would be what the bigger grant would be for.
And also there's a hurry
this
to
is
get
something
it
that
done
I see
before
as a-
someone changes his mind.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So, like for example, if you're going to the university and getting Pisulekar, before somebody says no, you can't touch Pisulekar's collection, you need to get it digitized. Because with the political atmosphere, there's a lot of
It works both ways. It works both ways. As people understand what's going on, they will also become more open, hopefully.
I'm hoping that that's what, this was why I wanted to have this open event, where people could come and express their views and give us ideas for how we can move forward. Because I think the more open involvement we have, the more participation we have, the better our chances are of making this project viable.
Actually, there are two things that we have to keep in mind when we come to this whole thing of cataloging. You see, even the libraries, there is the form, there is the reference section, and there is one which nobody can enter. Nobody can enter. But this is not the big problem. The problem is all the books in the library are in the catalog. The person opening the catalogue knows what this library has.
Right.
Now, after what I might say, at least let us make the world know what we have.
Yeah. So maybe just have a catalog first, yeah.
And then, if suppose if there is a rarest, what Leonard was saying, rarest of the rarest book, which nobody wants to touch, fine.
But at least people know that it's there.
It's there.
Hmm.
There's some.
Yeah.
Because there will be so many books in Goa of priceless value, which nobody will know that they are there.
Absolutely.
And then if somebody wants to do a research, it will be half-baked.
Well, I mean, because I work on this part of history, I'm also hoping that this is a project that gets more people invested and excited about this kind of history. Because so far this hasn't attracted as much interest and as much scholarship as it should, because this is really truly one of the most interesting, rich, incredibly complex areas of history, not just for South Asia generally, but for the Portuguese Empire, for imperial history in general, for Catholic history. There's so many ways in which the history of Goa is just crucial.
Purely by dates, no, I think very few other records of that era exist, because this was the first European Asian encounter in that sense.
Right.
But unfortunately, because of political reasons, not in a conspiratorial sense, but just this British legacy of dominating the full subcontinent,
Right.
the non-English kind of histories, whether it's Portuguese, French, Danish, whatever, have been totally subsumed, and people don't even, of course there are language and other problems, but that is increasingly, becoming in a certain sense manageable.
Right. No, I completely agree. That.
But we have let down the field totally, because how many people do we have studying, like young scholars, for example? Sharon was there doing excellent work and she passed away. So, you can count them on your fingers.
But that's the nice thing about a forum like Indo-Portuguese history, because you suddenly realize, even if they're not all professional scholars, there is at least a real constituency of people who are genuinely interested and very, very invested in it.
There is a huge constituency, but it's 5,000 kilometers away. Now, with the net, probably, I don't know, shrinking distances.
Yeah, but
I see a potential in looking at Goa as a space of, revisiting the way we have constructed India, and Indian academia has looked at India from the British point of view, especially from the Orientalism that developed under British. And Goa can really reverse that position, because that is completely a different view on India, where there was a complete different geography, which was more inclusive, sort of inclusive at that time when British came. But when Portuguese came, India was not there. Practically, what the idea of India comes only as time comes and colonization grows. And Portuguese are 200 years before them. So the very geography of India, the very history of India, very anthropology of India is plural, and it goes on becoming unified as time comes. And so this evolutionary way of looking at India, rather than looking at it as if some fixed in a tablet of time, something fixed like that, I think will help politically to tackle this kind of whoever they are, trying to fix Indian history, trying to singularize the plural anthropologies,
yes.
and so many things they do. So I thought maybe this project from Goa is beneficial even politically for Goa.
I completely agree. I mean, this is music to my ears. Even Leonard has heard me rant about the Hindu right for long enough to know that this is at least in part what my personal stakes are in a project like this. I'm horrified by the fascist direction of the politics in this country. So, anything that can interrupt these narratives, I think, are really, really crucial. Because exactly what you said. It's the plurality, it's the richness of our many histories that we need to preserve. Because if we don't, then we get sucked into, the fascists are very good at constructing one narrative that then can be used as a cudgel against everybody else who doesn't fit that narrative. And that is the really terrifying political possibility that we as Indian citizens today face. and there's no point pretending that we in Scotland in the Ivory Tower, we have to deal with the fact that this is on our doorstep now, and we have to find ways to tackle it. So I appreciate what you said very, very much, Father. If everybody is talked out, then we can close this, or we can obviously continue this informally. But thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for participating and for contributing and for your ideas and help and time. I'm so, so grateful. Thank you.